Time management, wanted to talk to a little bit, right? We're talking about all of this, hang on the phone with people, spend a little bit of extra time here and there. Where's the rubber meet the road, right? Because everybody's very busy all the time. So this little thing here is this guy holding the watch saying, before we begin our time management seminar, did everyone get one of these 36-hour wristwatches? Because that's how much time there is in a day, right? So a little bit on workplace stress. Caught the background there too, right? So yeah, sometimes things are stressful, right? So symptoms of poor time management. General lack of focus. Spending times on stuff that's urgent but not important, right? So there's a difference, right? Just because something's super urgent doesn't mean it's the thing you should be spending your time on, right? Missing deadlines. These are all symptoms of bad time management skills, right? Procrastination, improper prioritization, lack of punctuality, focusing on perfection is what causes these missed deadlines, right? Putting stuff off till the last minute, you're going to miss the deadline a lot of the time. Lack of punctuality, that's just being late, right? Shouldn't be late to stuff. More disorganized. Too busy to make time to be organized, rushing, doing everything yourself, saying yes to everything, overlooking details, significant errors, bad reflection on your professional ability. Details are very important in the parts world, probably more so than just about any other way outside of accounting in our entire business. Strained relationships, right? This is a symptom of poor time management. These are some of the results. Missed deadlines and details, frustrating others, increases workload for everybody, and leads to you being frustrated with other people as well. So I think we all can recognize all of these things. Ask yourself, is this what I need to be doing right now? If yes, keep going. Realistically and practically analyze your time. Log every 15 minutes for 2 weeks and find time sucks. So this is something that's been recommended at various management courses I've been to, including the one from Komatsu. If you find yourself in a spot where you are just never able to catch up, constantly behind, do the exercise of every 15 minutes. Just keep a little notepad. Just write down what you're doing for every 15 minutes. You will start to find areas that are time sucks, where you're losing time to worthless stuff. And it's usually not apparent because it's 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, but it all adds up. Simple starting point, write it down. If it's not written down, it won't be remembered. A dull pencil is greater than a sharp mind. A lot of the stress and stuff, again, I'm going to go back to calling customers back to get information from them that they already gave us. Comes right back to this thing, right? If we're writing it down, getting the information right the first time, it saves a bunch of time. It makes the task flow better, everything goes faster, everything's a little bit easier. Preparing a to-do list, marking items that need to be done first, and marking descending order of importance. So this is something that I personally do on almost a daily basis, right? I've got my notepad. I will make a list of the things I have to do, and I usually put like a star next to it as opposed to putting them in order, because usually I don't remember them in order. And then I'll put a little checkbox next to each of them. And as the day goes on, you X out the box. The next morning you come in, I've got 3 boxes left. Those are going to the top of my list for the next day. But it's just a way of holding yourself accountable that you're following up and doing things that you're supposed to do. And hopefully you don't see the same item on that list day after day after day. But if you do, it's kind of a note to yourself, hey, this is the thing I keep putting off. Learn the difference between I need to do this now and do I need to do this at all? What is it that you're working on, right? So my job is giving me migraines, high blood pressure, chest pains, and bleeding ulcers. I'd quit, but I need the health plan, right? So it's a little bit of self-inflicted there. Learn too many stress management techniques, please help. So these are the 4 simple options. So if you haven't heard of it, I'm going to introduce what's called an Eisenhower matrix, or a prioritization. Really, we need to be able to prioritize the tasks, because when you have a bunch of customers coming at you from different directions, everything seems like the most important thing. And if everything is urgent, nothing's urgent. So we have to be able to determine within ourselves what's important, what we need to do first, what maybe we don't need to do, what can wait till later, and what can we delegate, right? So delegation is normally something that we talk to managers about, but it's something that applies to everybody. If a customer is calling you asking, the status of an order, you might be able to, if you have a warehouse person, ask the warehouse person. If it's checking on the status of a shipment, you might be able to call our vendors, for example, and have them follow up on some of these back orders instead of doing all the homework yourself. So delegation does exist at every level of our organization. So this is what the matrix looks like, right? So we've got urgent, not urgent, important, not important, and the way they kind of go in there. So the urgent, important, these are the fires, right? This is a crisis. This is, we have to get it done right now. A lot of this is often driven by us not getting ahead of something, procrastinating, putting it off, making an error. A lot of errors will end up in the urgent. Oh my gosh, I forgot to order that thing for this guy a week ago. Now it's a crisis. Now I'm behind the 8 ball. I got to get it done. This is the stuff that occupies way too much of our time. Not important. These are things like, urgent but not important. So these are, I got to be careful here, meetings. Sometimes they're urgent but not necessarily the most important. Emails, interruptions, calls. You need to understand which ones are important and which ones aren't. If your phone rings, even if it's not an important phone call, it's going to seem urgent because it's right there, right in front of you. Same with emails. Not important, not urgent. Busy work. Time sucks. Trivial items. Chit-chatting with people, right? Playing around with games, just kind of messing around. This is the stuff that we want to eliminate from our day-to-day, right? Stuff that is just sucking time and doesn't need to. And there's different things we can do with that. But how you spend your time determines quality of life, success, future, everything. Everybody only gets 1,440 minutes in a day. So if you start thinking about it in those terms, it kind of changes your perspective a little bit. And where are you spending your time? Like if you were to do that, logging everything every 15 minutes for 2 weeks, and then applying this to it, where are you spending your time? Where we want to be spending our time is right here, right? Important but not urgent. So this is the proactive actions you can take. What's that order that if I take care of it right now today, even though I don't have to do it for a day, is going to be done, and it prevents it from moving into this box. Stuff that doesn't get done here ends up over here. So again, I would encourage, if you're logging time, to just kind of take a step back and look at it. It's really hard to identify this stuff when you're in the weeds. So some keys here, like we just kind of talked about: to-do list, prioritizing that to-do list, reviewing that list, and then concentrating on results, not being busy. What are the things on this list that I can do that I can finish, right? Let's do those. If I can knock something out and get it done, take that win. Any thoughts or questions on the time management before we move on to the next thing? What are some strategies that you guys use at the branches to manage your own time? How do you prioritize your work? Not a trick question.
I guess it depends on all the times. So if the customer says, hey, my machine's down, I need this.
Yeah.
We move that to the head of the list.
For sure.
Or, okay, can I get this quote? Kind of move that back a little bit, because you got to be looking for this part for the customer needs. Or if they're just looking for a quote, you can get that done in a little bit longer time frame.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, this is the balancing act, and this is the tricky thing about being on a parts counter. Your priorities list is going to change minute to minute, right? I mean, there are legitimate, important, urgent stuff that you have to deal with right then and there, right? And there's no avoiding it. But how do we make sure that we're identifying those correctly, right? So some of it does go to talking to the customer, right? Setting realistic expectations and understanding timelines there. But yeah, you're exactly right. Sometimes you're gonna have to drop stuff and move something else to the top. Do you guys use checklists? How do we each manage this personally? I'm gonna go over here.
I usually just ask everybody in general. Most of the guys out in the shop, they come up to me if I'm working or I got 3 other things to do. I ask them, do you need this now or can you give me some time? And most of the time, they're like, yeah, you're all right. Or they're, I'll get it to you shortly. Same thing with the guys on the phone. I ask them, do you need me to get this done right now? And most of the time, I'll get it done over the phone. But if I know it's going to take a little bit longer, I ask them.
Yeah.
So other than that, I kind of just put check marks and little notes next to whatever I write down and go from there.
So do you use a checklist?
Not specifically, no.
Okay.
Just kind of my notebook and write little notes and just go over it when I have downtime a little bit.
Sure.
Figure it out.
How about everybody else? Does anybody use checklists specifically, or what do you, go ahead.
For notepads we use in Savage, we've got the big one that we write out calls down that a lot of us use a small notepad that's about this big, and that's what I put my checklist on. So kind of like what you said, it's not in ascending order priority, but the ones that I really need to be done will be highlighted with a star, or like it'll be underlined, and as I do it, I cross them off.
Okay, makes sense.
Everything goes in the book.
Okay, yeah.
Phone calls, to-dos. I got another list for not emergency stuff that can wait. Returns, cores. If I got a week or something, it's on the not important list, but
Yeah, so that's a good way to do it. Keep just 2 separate lists, right? Yeah. Anybody else employ a similar strategy?
So I don't use a checklist per se, but like I told our group earlier when we were talking on some things, it's like I prioritize, but then sometimes I just need to get a little bit of a win on
Yeah.
the list of stuff to get done. So I do something that's simple and easy so I can get that check mark done so I can go back to some of the harder things. So it's not really a checklist, but it's a check and balance on ordering stuff and doing stuff for customers, I guess.
There's a lot to be said for momentum building, right? I mean, there's something to be said for take the small win where you can. It goes back to the example that Lance gave with the, I think is it McRaven who did that? He's on his phone.
Yes.
Thank you. He is paying attention. Making your bed in the morning, right? It's so that you build that momentum through the day. And sometimes, yeah, if you're just buried in stuff, pick a couple things you can knock out just to get the sense of I'm finishing stuff, build the momentum. It helps keep you going. Any other comments? How do you organize? You haven't said anything yet, so I'm going to pick on you.
I like to pin emails when I get an email.
Sure.
So they stay at the top until I'm done, and then when I get them done, unpin them. I use a lot of post-it notes and stuff.
Post-it notes work, right? It's a way to do it. Do you color code them at all with post-it notes? I've known some people who do that.
No, I just gotta make sure they're, in a good spot that I can find on my,
Yeah,
on my screen.
Can't turn a fan on, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think an important thing with parts countermen too and task lists or check notes, it's if you don't end up showing up to work the next day,
Yeah.
is somebody able to come in and help fill in, and what does that process actually look like? Or we've seen too, if you have a notebook and you flip the page, like things are lost on that last page. It's not carried over onto that current front page. So being able to manage it and then understand what your co-workers are doing as well in the same department to be able to take care of the customers has caught us.
Yeah.
Times.
I mean, ideally, we're uniform in the way we do that, right? So if somebody's out, you can kind of pick up and have some sense of where they were on it. Again, I'm a big fan of checklists and putting a new one every day, which was kind of the guidance that's thrown up there. If just every day, here's my list of stuff. I'm going to look at yesterday's. I'm going to write a new list every morning is one of the first things I do when I get in the door. Going into a little bit of communication, and this This says they had a tendency to talk past one another. It's a dog and a cat, bark meow. Communication's really key in customer service. And specifically, I want to talk about writing and kind of business emails, right? We talked a lot about the phone and some of the words and how we do that. So this is, it seems ridiculous how bad the spelling and everything is here, but you should see some of the emails I've seen. So this one is somebody saying, as far as directions on how to add 2 plus 2 to get 4, it says, please take singular digits of 1 and do this twice, yielding numeral 2. Repeating this process, take this here yield of the 2 2's and add, and through addition of the 2 digits, create the sum. If done correctly, the equation should read 2 adding 2, yielding a sum of 4. If the yield is any answer other than 4, please contact the accounting department and discuss with the manager. Not good, right? Not great. We can do better. And this is obviously an extreme example. Grammar matters, right? People's ability to read stuff. We should be explaining things in the simplest way possible. This is another little silly one. The guy's saying, I'm not satisfied with the new mission statement. I can still understand parts of it. And the mission statement is, what does it say here? Manifest excellence beyond a paradigm of betterment with magnitude for implementation of probity and cohesion with coalescence and diversity of purpose steadfast, bounded only with our prescience and predestination as we gloriously emanate eminence for the divine unified triumph toward quintessential destiny. That's a great one, right?
You lost me at manifest.
Yeah, exactly. We always want to explain things in the simplest terms possible, right? I mean, there's a great saying that if you can't explain something very simply, you don't really understand it, right? So not using overly flowery language like this, or to the previous example, not using just horrible grammar to over-explain something. So, elements of business style, you want to write how is natural. Write like you're speaking, right? So again, let's not pull out the thesaurus and try to, I can't even say thesaurus, that's bad, and try to, sound like we went to Harvard here. Speak, write in the same way you'd speak. Revise it and rewrite it. If it's important, it's worth going over a second time. Don't overstate, you don't need to double stuff. Omit extra words like very, to, so, quite, rather, etc. Avoid fancy words. Again, if you can't do it simply, do you really understand it? Clarity. You don't want to go so brief that you're not clear in what you're saying. You don't want to put your opinion in there. This is a business email, right? It should be facts. Business language versus personal language. And I would recommend, everybody has Copilot. I don't know if any of you have used it. Has anybody used it? Let me start there. I'm getting one yes. Anybody else? Does everybody know that they have Copilot on their computer? Next time you write a long email, run it through Copilot. Just go into Copilot, say, improve this email for me. Throw the email in there. It might change 3 or 4 things. It might change nothing, but it does an excellent job of cleaning it up.
Oh, so don't go to Mario and ask her to read it.
You can, but Mario, I just throw that thing into Copilot. This is a quick little check. Especially if you're dealing with a vendor or something, and you're like, am I being really clear here? Run it through there. It'll clean it up. It'll pull some of the opinion out. I've caught myself where I have like a paragraph, I throw it in there, and it comes out with like 5 bullet points. And I'm like, okay, that's way better, right? I mean, it's cleaner, it's neater, it's very accessible, and it's a tool that we've got. Everybody has it, right? It's not gonna change your overall message. Definitely proofread it to make sure it still reads. And a lot of times it won't change much at all, but it's a nice, easy, quick check, and it's embedded in Outlook. There's a little Copilot thing in the corner of Outlook, so I'd recommend everybody does it here and there. Now, if you're sending an email that says order confirmed, probably don't need to run that through, right? But if you're sending stuff, especially to customers, it's a great tool that we have, and I'd recommend you use it. So business emails, what constitutes a business email? It's used for sending information, right? People assume tone, so I do want to be careful with email. This is something I brought up earlier with phones being better. People will assume the worst tone possible in an email, right? You might be neutral with a smile on your face. They read your email, and depending on how it's worded, they're going to think you're angry, right? So phone call where possible, especially with a more sensitive topic. If we're just conveying information, email is an appropriate way to do it. So understanding what the best method is. Is it necessary? Again, can you solve this with a phone call? I'm going to go again with the number of email chains that I was on that were 6, 7 back and forths deep. You pick up the phone and it's solved in 5 minutes. Like, we can save ourselves so much time. And why do we end up with those? It's this right here. It's the CYA. A lot of people put something in an email to cover. If there's a concern about that, you can still have a phone call. You can make a phone call to somebody, have the conversation, and then send them a quick email, right? If you're worried, like, I'm going to have this conversation with service and they're going to throw me under the bus later and say that this didn't happen, still do it over the phone, right? Have the conversation, talk to them, you'll work it out a lot faster. And then if you really need to, send a quick follow-up email. Hey, just confirming we had this conversation. Here's what was said. Here's what I'm doing. Protects both of you. They know what you committed to. You're covering that we all agree on what was said. It will get forwarded to ... Assume everyone, including a customer, will read it. So let's be smart about what we put in emails. Troy has joked several times that when he was at his previous firm, every now and then their attorney would come in and say, all right, today we're going to talk about the email you wrote 3 years ago, right? It's a permanent record, so let's be smart about what we put in there, right? Don't put offensive stuff. Definitely don't throw anybody under the bus. Don't be blaming customers. Emails are out there. They can get around. Like, just be smart about it, right? It should be pretty much just factual information. Other stuff, just make a phone call. Nail the subject line. This is huge. If you, all of us are going into our email boxes and searching for stuff, having a clear subject line helps so much, and it's the same for our customers. If they're looking for something, having something that's searchable is a big deal, right? I can't tell you the number of times where I'm going back to look for something specific and I have to search by the sender because the subject line might have nothing to do with anything, right? I mean, it could be something as simple as, bucket tooth order, right? You're sending that to the customer. Just something so if they want to go back and reference it, they can find it. This is especially important if you're going to the service. Subject line might be work order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Just something that makes it easier for people to access it. It also helps them when they're looking at their inbox. We all have a lot of unread emails, I'm sure. This will help them know, hey, this is a topic. Bam, it's right here. Stick to the point. Don't need a lot of fluff and filler. Again, I'd encourage you guys to use Copilot where you're able to kind of try and clean those up for you. Respond like it's a phone call. So 2 hours is what's considered responsive in email. Phone calls, we need to be better than 2 hours, but we want to be responsive. If you can respond to an email typically within 2 hours, people will generally consider that to be responsive, which is actually a pretty long time, right? If you think about it. It's a good chunk of the day. There's a manager saying, I love email. It allows me to give 10 times as much work to 10 times as many people with 1/10 of my effort. So you just blow an email out to everybody.
Something about emails is it's amazing how many people are offended when it's all in capital letters.
Yeah, you are shouting at somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Like
me,
code
I don't,
rules.
I don't see anything about that, but, and I don't do that, not on purpose for sure, but it's funny to hear the amount of people that say, oh, I got this email, and they were yelling at me, and it's like, they weren't.
Right?
So,
Oh.
something to think about as well.
Oh, it's very true. Very true. Yeah, I mean, good grammar, just clear language, not all caps. Make sure we spell stuff correctly. Like, it should be pretty basic stuff. And again, if you can pick up the phone and handle it that way, a lot of times that's a better way to do it. So just a little final wrap up to the importance of communication and how misunderstandings are problematic.
Das ist das wichtigste Gerät des Küstenwächters, das Überlebensradar.
Mayday, Mayday. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you... Yeah, over. We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
A little bit of humor, but again, communication is really important. It's really easy to misunderstand stuff. Hopefully nobody's sinking in a boat because of it, but it kind of drives home the point. So with that, I think it's almost 4 o'clock. I think we're going to break for the day. We've got a few more things to do, but I want to make sure that everybody, those who are going to the hotel, get ahead of traffic and have time to get over there and get checked in. Any questions, general thoughts on stuff that we've covered so far? We're going to try that minute of silence and see if it seems like 5 minutes here.
Email or phone call.
Yeah.
I don't, at a past job, it was told, send an email about it because that way you have a paper trail.
Yeah.
Instead of calling.
So I wouldn't say instead of, right? So if it's something where you need a paper trail, have the conversation, send a follow-up email to confirm, right? It's not necessarily an either or, but to the point here where you can, a lot of stuff gets missed in communication if it's not real clear. So many times a conversation is going to be so much better than an email. You can't read tone in an email, all of that stuff, right? So, hey, I see that you put this order in for this. When do you need it? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I've got it on order. It's going to be here these dates, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure you're all on the same page. And then you can shoot them an email just to confirm, I've got this on order. It's going to be here in 2 weeks as we had agreed to, something like that, right? So you can do both. But when you get into, it's kind of a toxic trait if we start only communicating by email because we want to cover our butts in document stuff. So you can still do it, and in a lot of situations, it makes sense to still do it, but I'd have the phone call first.